Iran threatens European US allies as these 10 nations could now face the risk of being targeted by Tehran. Balkans enter Iran's danger zone. Europe braces for a possible escalation as Tehran warns US-aligned nations. Iran's missile shadow reaches Europe, putting NATO's southern flank on alert amid rising tensions with Tehran. Croatia 4, Sejjil to hit Europe. Italy, Germany, and France could face growing concerns over Iran's missile threats. Iran has warned that European support for US military operations could make those countries potential targets for retaliation. Iran's new military chief said assistance provided to US forces would be treated as complicity in Washington's actions. Experts said the warning could put several southeastern European countries under greater security pressure amid rising tensions. Iran's potential European targets. Albania is among the southeastern European states that could face greater security risks. Bulgaria could come under increased scrutiny as Iran warns European states. Croatia could face heightened security concerns if Iran expands its response. Greece could become more exposed because of its strategic location and close defense ties with US. Romania could face greater risks as a key NATO member on Europe's southeastern flank. Serbia could also face pressure if Tehran expands its warnings to European countries supporting Washington. Bosnia and Herzegovina could be drawn into wider security concerns. Kosovo could also face heightened regional security concerns. Montenegro could come under greater scrutiny because of its NATO membership. North Macedonia could also face increased security risks if Iran begins targeting European states. Iran's expanding missile capabilities have raised fresh questions over how far Tehran could threaten targets across Europe. Tehran had long maintained a roughly 2,000-kilometer missile range limit to avoid directly threatening NATO territory. However, recent reports have suggested that Iran could be exploring missile technologies capable of reaching significantly greater distances. Experts warned that a longer-range Iranian missile could potentially bring major European countries such as Germany, France, and Italy within reach. Iran's Croatia 4 and Sejjil missile families have been cited in discussions over Tehran's potential ability to extend its strike range. Experts said Iran could also rely on hybrid tactics against Europe, using drones, cyber attacks, or covert operations to apply pressure without open war. A direct Iranian strike on a NATO member could trigger collective defense measures and risk a much wider military confrontation. On August 22, Iran said its weapons and defense equipment output doubled over 1 year, despite strikes on limited parts of its military-industrial sector. Defense spokesman Reza Tlaib announced the increase on state television, according to Sputnik, presenting the rise as proof of Iran's expanding domestic defense capacity. The surge came despite US and Israeli strikes on parts of Iran's defense industry, as Tehran claimed its military production network absorbed the damage. Tehran said some defense facilities were damaged during the reported 12-day war, acknowledging that enemy strikes reached selected parts of its industrial base. But Iran claimed production never stopped as its military kept using weapons, saying factory output continued alongside efforts to replenish combat losses. Reza Tlaib said, and I quote, "Our production volume in the past year has increased twofold in terms of weapons and defense equipment produced in our country. This is despite the fact that during the 12-day war, some limited and specific parts of our defense industry were also among the targets of the enemy's strikes during their aggression against our country." Unquote. Tehran credited a vast supply network for keeping its defense production lines moving, spreading design, research and manufacturing work across thousands of domestic partners. Around 8,000 private and knowledge-based firms previously worked with Iran's defense sector, supporting weapons research, components, maintenance, and industrial production. Iran says the network has now expanded to roughly 9,300 to 9,400 companies, widening the domestic base that supports military manufacturing. That represents growth of approximately 20% in 1 year, according to Tehran's figures, as Iran claims to be increasing self-reliance under pressure. More than 1,000 types of weapons and defense systems are now produced, Iran says, ranging from missiles and drones to air defenses and other equipment. Universities and private companies also support defense production, linking academic research, technical expertise, and commercial industry to Iran's military sector. Iran says 76% of defense research projects reach the product stage, suggesting a large share of development work progressed into fieldable systems. Tehran also claimed its domestic arms industry can produce weapons far more cheaply, using local supply chains and indigenous technology to cut costs. Some Iranian weapons cost 1/10 or even 1/20 of foreign rivals, according to Mer News, giving Tehran a claimed advantage in sustaining large-scale production. Iran also claimed it now ranks among the world's top 10 powers in missile capability, citing its expanding domestic missile designs, production lines, and inventory. Tehran further claimed it remains among the world's leading states in drone warfare, stressing the role of unmanned systems in its regional military strategy. However, some new systems are deliberately kept secret to preserve battlefield surprise, limiting the public information available about Tehran's newest capabilities. This comes as U.S. missile stocks have been significantly depleted during the war with Iran, increasing the importance of industrial capacity in any prolonged confrontation.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a banking dynasty meets tides of world history, intrigue, and a dash of myth?
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.